Welcome into the At the Yard podcast. I'm your host, Les Lukach, episode 112. And I got a really special guest with us today. Atlanta Braves utility infielder Luke Williams joins us. And Luke, again, man, I was so thrilled to have you on the podcast, man. And like we were talking before we hit record, and this is your story is one that's one of my favorites, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really hope some parents and some players can glean a lot of information from today's episode. So, Luke, man, welcome to the At the Yard podcast, man. Appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, Les, thanks. Really, thank you for allowing me to be here and share a little bit about my story. And, hopefully parents, players can, take a little something from it.
Yeah, well, let's dive into that story, and we're going to get into, what led you to where you are today. But let's go way back, right? I mean, as a young guy, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, what sports are you playing at that time? A lot of kids nowadays, we're seeing specialization at those ages. And, I know you played football in high school. I know you fiddled a little bit with some track in high school. But when you were 8, 9, 10 years old, what was Luke Williams doing at that age?
Yeah, a lot of sports. So, I tried them all. I did soccer for 2 years. I did basketball for a few years. Started tackle football at 7, and then football stuck. Baseball, baseball has been since 6 years old. So baseball and football were the two that stuck with me, and played football up until my junior year of high school. Didn't play my senior year, and then baseball still chugging along. So, and a whole lot of beach too. I was hitting the beach. I would go to the beach from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then go to my 5 p.m. football practice for 2 hours. It was incredible what you can do when you're 10, 12 years old,
Right. The amount of energy, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's not common for us old guys nowadays.
I know. You look back and you're like, man, how did we do it? But it's just you don't know any better. You just
right. Especially living where you lived, right? I mean, you probably weren't too far from the beach.
No, 10 minutes. I was 10 minutes away, and fortunately, my mom loved going to the beach, so I'm one of 4, so she would drag the 4 of us to the beach, and it was some good memories.
Yeah, we're trying to do those same memories right now with our 2, so that's awesome to hear. So you go to Dana Hills High School. You're playing football. You mentioned you didn't play your senior year. You had a concussion your junior year, right? Or was that your sophomore year?
My junior year had a concussion.
Yeah.
And that was right around. I think it was right around that Florida tournament that the WWBA won. So I didn't play in that tournament because of the concussion.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So, but you played 3 years of football, obviously 4 years of baseball. How did track fold into that for you?
Track was so at Dana Hills High School, they have a wall of fame.
Yep.
And you need 6 varsity letters of, I think, a first or second team, all Orange County kind of thing. And so I had 5. I had 3 from football and only 2 from baseball because I didn't play. I was hurt my sophomore year, so I didn't get a letter, varsity letter. And so I went up to my baseball coach, Tom Ferris. I was like, hey, Ferris, I'd love an opportunity to make this wall of fame. Can I run track? And I didn't think he would say yes, but he did. And so I would have baseball practice, and then right after baseball practice for about 2 or 3 weeks, I would just go right to track practice. And I ran the 100 and the 4x100 relay.
Yeah.
And I got a varsity letter. I reached the certain number that I needed, and now my name's etched in the Dana Hills Wall of Fame. So.
That's awesome. I want to talk about Ferris because, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys, right? He's a little bit of a character, hell of a baseball coach, and just an awesome guy, right? I mean, what was your experience like playing for him?
Yeah, he's a big old teddy bear.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed my time at Dana Hills, man. We had we had some great teams, some great ball players, and obviously with Ferris at the helm, he did a good job of especially my junior year. It was pretty much all juniors on that team, and to allow us to kind of play our game and do our thing on the field, it showed, and we won the CBU League championship because we played hard-nosed baseball, and Ferris kind of allowed us to play our game, cause some chaos out on the field, and yeah, it's I get to go back occasionally to Dana Hills, and Ferris lets me join in on ground balls and chat with some of the players. So I always enjoy that. Him and Chris Donalds. Donalds is the assistant coach. He's an interesting character as well.
Yeah, there's the I don't know if you remember the old Palm Desert tournament out in December out there, and
oh yeah,
I usually play golf with those two guys, and it's nothing but a good time that
what
weekend.
A duo. What a duo! I haven't gotten the pleasure to do that yet, but one day I will.
Oh man, hey, if you're in Palm Desert in December, you ought to come out with us because it's a riot, man. It's nothing but a good time. But so let's jump into your story, right? And the reason why I wanted to have you on, I often share your story with people as, look, this is a guy that played multiple sports. This is a guy who had everything you wanted in a baseball player when it comes to recruiting. But this is a guy that didn't commit till March of your senior year, if I'm not mistaken, right? I mean, you commit to Cal Poly, and I remember talking to Teddy Warker, like, Teddy, you gotta go see him. You gotta commit this guy. You gotta commit this guy. And when you finally committed to Cal Poly, I'll never forget the text I get from Teddy. He was over the moon, right, with excitement. So take us through that process of playing on what was that CBA team you played on was absolutely loaded, right? I mean, talent up and down. I mean, you start at the top and go to the bottom. I mean, all those guys were dudes, and yourself included.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you playing on a team like that? And even at Dana Hills, where you may or may not know, but I'm pretty sure you knew that, hey, I'm pretty darn good at this sport.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys over here are committed. I'm not committed. Some schools are talking to me. They're not really talking to me. Take us through that process, because I think in 2024, heading into 2025, especially with all these new rules going down, there's so many kids that are in their senior year now who find themselves in the same boat. And what sort of things did you do to kind of overcome that and silence that and just kind of keep plugging on?
Yeah, well, so I'll start with our CBA team, because that was some of the most fun I've had on a baseball field. First off, John Pano, who is one of my favorite coaches I've ever had. I look at him like as a mentor. So when CBA was created, I wasn't because there was ABD before.
Yep.
Right. And so ABD forced you to commit fully. And so I couldn't commit fully because I played football.
Mm-hmm.
So I got booted off. And that was like one of the worst days ever. Because I was like, man, I can't play with these guys that I've created such a great relationship with, Kyle Molnar, Chris Betts, Nico Navarro, Bryce Femmel, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And that was like so unfortunate. And then Pano called me one day and was like, "Hey, Luke, you need to come back and play with me. Let's go." And so, I mean, from then on, it was like you said, our whole team was going Division I.
Yeah.
Whole team was going Division I. We had, Betts and Molnar were probably the top two, where they're getting draft looks their sophomore year, junior year. Like, it was ridiculous. But for me, it was, from what I remember, it was, I just loved playing. It was such an incredible group. And I don't know if it's because I was young and dumb, but I was fun. I was in the moment. I was having so much fun playing. I was playing football, and it was just, awesome baseball. I feel like I didn't know any different. And, obviously, going in my senior year, I still wasn't committed. And at certain days, it's like, oh man, like, am I going to get committed? Am I going to commit somewhere? Yada yada. But I just kept playing. CBA had all these different teams. CBA Wave, with John Glassy or Josh Glassy, and which was awesome. So like I would just play with them too. Like I played as much as I could whenever I could. I was driving to Corona from Dana Point. I was driving all over, and I knew, like, I deep down I knew I was going to play Division One. I knew it. It was just a matter of time, and I also wasn't in a rush to make a decision. When I was going into my junior year, Santa Barbara offered me a scholarship. It was a pretty small scholarship, but they pressured me real hard to commit right away. And as it was a really scary situation for me because I felt like I was being pressed. I was like, man, this is so uncomfortable. Why am I being pressed? Is this the last offer I'm going to get? I was like asking all these questions. And, ultimately I said no. And it ended up being, a great situation or a great experience for me because I learned that I don't need to rush this process. I know what kind of baseball player I am. That's going to be one of many that are going to come. So I think that was kind of how I took it. The whole process was play my game, do my thing. And, when teams call, listen. And when it felt right, make the decision. And ultimately Cal Poly was, the decision I made. And I was really happy with it because of the style of play. Larry Lee as the head coach, Teddy Worker. Teddy was great to work with. And I have one story on that I wanted to bring up. Do you remember the Fresno? There was like a Fresno high school tournament in the summer.
Yeah. So
we played there. It was after our junior year, so I would have been like, senior summer.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, Teddy was there. There were a couple other schools. And I was playing really bad in this game. I had an awful game. My last at bat, I hit a pop-up in the infield. Drops. I'm standing on second base. And Teddy said that was the reason why they, kept watching me.
Yeah.
That was like, wow, this guy is going to, bust his butt, even if he hits a little thinker pop up, it's like, you never know what could happen.
All right.
And then, then he came to a game the next day and I went 2 or 3 with a double. Obviously they had a good game and performed well, but it's those little things, those little details that I think those coaches are always looking at, because you reach a certain point in this game where it's, the skill level is pretty even, but those little things, those little events, those little plays, those make the difference.
Yeah, a hustle play here, a hustle play there, right? I mean, shoot, we saw it in the World Series, right? I mean, that 5th inning is going to go down in infamy for the Yankees, right? I mean, it's just those little things can win you big games, right? And
Sure.
I'm sure that's what Teddy was thinking there. And
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with Teddy about you and telling him, this guy's going to help you win games. And he's like, no doubt about that, right? And so that backs up that story you just shared, which was which is perfect. But what was it about Cal Poly that ultimately, you said, I mean, you talked about the style of play, obviously Larry Lee, but when you're looking to make a commitment, right? I mean, a lot of kids might be thinking, oh, dude, I'm only going to be there for 2 years if I'm, going to be 20 or 21, excuse me, or, maybe I'll be there for 3 years, but I'm definitely getting drafted. I'm not going to be there a long time. But I mean, something tells me that you weren't thinking that way. Like you probably were thinking, okay, if I have to spend 4 years somewhere, this is the right place for me.
Definitely. I was planning on being fully committed to whatever school I was going to. And I wanted to So the thing with me was that, like, you know, SoCal baseball or like, small ball baseball is still so big in colleges. UCLA, UC Irvine, not really, but UCLA was like the big one. Whereas like if you're batting third, you're gonna bunt.
Right.
It's like there was no sort of like power hole situation where it's like we're gonna hit.
Yeah.
And so the thing that really intrigued me about Cal Poly was when Larry Lee told me that he was, with the style, with the field they had a huge field, big power gaps. He told me, he said, I want you to hit those power gaps and run like crazy.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna, obviously you're gonna bunt in situations. That's the name of the game, sack bunt here, safety squeeze here. But I didn't want to, trap myself in that kind of situation where I was forced to just be that little guy.
Yeah.
I knew with my speed and the way I played that if I get a little thump, then, anything's possible.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. And that's why I ended up picking Cal Poly. It's because they saw that I wasn't just a speed guy that's going to drop bunts. Like I was a speed guy who could hit.
Yeah. And hit for a little power too, right? I mean, little juice there every so often. So you go off your senior year, right? I mean, you had a really, really good senior campaign. When does the process of the whole scouting part pick up? Because look, I mean, this is my favorite part of your story is you go from an uncommitted senior commits, a day after or the day of that they can come back out to see you. And fast forward, April, May, June, 3 months, and you're a third round pick. Like, how does that happen, right? And how do you go from being an uncommitted senior to being a third round pick? Obviously, D Pitt with some great scouting there, legendary scout down here in SoCal, as you know. But great work by him. But still, like, how does that happen for you, right? I mean, and for you, you go from committing to hearing your name called in the draft just 3 months later. What those must have been the craziest 90 days of your life.
So I would like to thank Merritt Krause, who was he was pitching at Dana that year, and he was really getting some looks for the draft. So in winter games, beginning of the season, there'd be 20, 30 scouts at our games.
Yeah.
Purely for Merritt Krause. And so, they got their gun, Merritt throws 5 innings, and then once he's done, everyone leaves. It's like, oh, where'd all those people go?
Right.
And so, week by week, Merritt Krause starts, and, he would get pulled out, and then, 5 guys would stay. And then, a couple of weeks later, a few more would stay. And then scouts started coming when he wasn't pitching. And so and then that's when I started getting phone calls of hey, Luke, we're interested, and then they do the in-house meeting. They come to my house, and it all, like you said, it all happens so quick. You don't even have time to think. You're just doing. I got Red Sox, I got Pirates, I got all these teams that are in my living room, and I was like, man, how did I get here? But it was just I was just playing my game. You try to simplify it as much as you can because there's a lot of exterior noise that can crush you, especially as a young 17, 18-year-old. You want to be that MLB star. You want to be, and it's social media. You see all these people on social media now where it's, you don't know what to believe.
Right.
And so, it was just such a crazy turn of events. And then it was 2 or 3 days before the draft, and you tell your number to certain teams, and I was convinced I wasn't getting mine. So I'm committed. I'm in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm going to college. I'm not getting drafted. It was cool, great experience to go through. But I'm going to go to Cal Poly. Do my thing and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then the first day of the draft, I'm playing in the Orange County All-Star game, and Brett Kay was the manager, and he taps me and he goes, "Hey, Luke, you got to go talk to your dad." I was like, "No." Okay. And so I go talk to my dad. My dad's like, "Hey, the Phillies are on the phone right now. They want to take you second round." I was like,
middle of the game?
Middle of the game. I just scored. Panic 30, middle of the game. My dad's like, calls me over and he's like, the advisor at the time was like, "Hey, Phillies, want to see if you would take this second round." And I was like, "What?" "Yes, please. Come on, let's go." Hang up and I go back and play. I think I played short, or I think I went in at short for another inning, and then Coach K was like, "Luke, you shouldn't play anymore.
You're done.
enjoy the game. Enjoy the game." And then the Phillies ended up taking another player at that pick, and fellas, went back home, and I was like, "Dad, that was the coolest thing I've ever experienced." And then the next day, I was in school. I was in high school, and I got drafted third round.
Oh.
And so that was incredible. My phone was blown up for 2 hours while I was in, government class or something like that.
Ferris didn't come pull you out of class?
No, actually, yeah, that was, man, I can't believe you didn't do that for me. Well, fortunately, my teacher was the basketball coach, and Mr. Desiano. I said, "Hey, Mr. Desiano, just kind of had a big day. Can I step out for a little bit?" He's let me step out of class for 45 minutes or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened, and that was the beginning of a crazy 10 years now. I think I'm coming up on my 10th season.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. 2015, right? That was 2015 draft.
Yep.
Oh man, you're catching up to me.
Hey, watch out.
Yeah, no, but so take us through those in-home visits, right? I mean, you said you had a bunch of those, and you obviously you feel a level of comfort with these scouts, with with the people that are coming in to talk to you. You've seen them at Scout Ball on the Wednesday night games.
Yeah.
You see them here, you see them there. You obviously see them at your games. What is it like when they're sitting across the dinner table from you and your parents talking to you about the draft?
So a few teams had, they whip out a computer right away and they have their own sort of eye tests that they take you through. And it's also like a reactionary test where you're tapping the space bar like a square and you got to hit it right where the circle is, some tests like that. And then they just try to get to know you. They try to get to know your family, yourself, and your background. Because also behind the scenes, they're asking everyone about, you. They're not just asking you. There's people behind the scenes. I remember my academic advisor told me that she got a call from one of the teams, and I was like, "Wow, really?" They went all the way to my, high school advisor.
Yeah,
which was pretty interesting. But yeah, they just try to get to know you, and then if they come back again for a second one, that's kind of when they get into like the nitty gritty of what's it going to take for you to, skip college,
right?
Money wise. So, but they were cool. All the guys were great. One of the scouts, Dan Entreveris, is he still with the Royals? He was with the Royals when no, he's not with the Royals.
No.
He was with the Royals when.
Well, at least not down here. I don't know if he may be somewhere else.
Yeah, he was literally maybe a 10-minute walk down the street from my house.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty incredible. That was pretty crazy too. He came over a few times, but it was a cool experience, and it was definitely, something I'll never forget, because I'm sitting, these major league teams are in front of me talking about how much money it's going to take, and I was like, wait, I'm going to get what?
You're going to pay me?
Yeah. Wait, what? I'm getting paid for this? So
no, that's sweet. So obviously third round pick,
mm-hmm.
You end up signing, foregoing college. And then the journey really starts, right? You've overcome a lot in that journey, that part of your journey as well. So like, take us through that, right? You sign, I'm assuming you get assigned to rookie ball.
Mm-hmm.
You go off to rookie ball. What's that experience like, right? I mean, you're away from home. You don't have Ferris. You don't have your parents. You don't have your buddies. You're probably with some foreign guys that don't speak your language very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, take us through that process. And at any point in that process, did you say, damn, I could be on a beach in Slow right now?
Yeah. So first day, I flew to Philly for a couple days, did some exams and stuff, and then they flew me down to Clearwater, which is where their spring training hub is, and that's where the Gulf Coast League rookie level is. And my parents were with me this whole time. So we fly in, I'm staying at a hotel, but this wasn't a hotel. This was, 1-star motel, Magnuson Inn. Never forget it.
Magnuson?
The Magnuson Inn.
Magnuson Inn.
Yep. And go into my room, and I thought it was just going to be my own room, but it was Cornelius Randolph, who was the first round pick of the Phillies. I was like, oh, whoa, hey, didn't know you were going to be in there, And we were roommates the whole summer, which was a blast to get to know him. But I had no idea what I was getting into, once you get there. And then, like you said, you're in a clubhouse where I think we had 7, 8 Americans, and then 20 plus Dominican, Venezuelan, Puerto Rican players.
Oh.
And so all I'm hearing is Spanish, and I've never heard that kind of Spanish before. It's so quick and slang words, and I didn't know what I was doing. I bought a bike from Target where I would ride back and forth on a bike. That was the thing that everyone did, because they didn't have transportation yet. I think now they have vans that bring everyone, but I had a bike, and it was nice, swampy, thick Florida humidity.
Wow.
Playing 1:00 games, and it was so cool yet so overwhelming, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but you just adapt. I think what I've learned in baseball is adapt or die. Really, it's you either got to perform or not perform, and I've been through my fair shares of struggles and hardship, but I wouldn't be where I am without it. And that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning of a journey that has a lot of failure in it, a lot of tough nights, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
So you sign in 2015, 2015 draft. You make your debut in 2021.
Yep.
So you're almost exactly 6 years from draft day to debut date, right? And a lot of people would have said, man, you're in your 6th year of minor league baseball, 5th year of minor league baseball. Like, it's not going to happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how do you, I'm sure you heard that, all right? I mean, from some people, I mean, how do you silence the noise? Like, how do you push that aside and just keep grinding?
I think the love of the game that's when you really learn if you love baseball or not, because there's so many lonely nights You know, you're going back to your hotel room with your other roommate. You're just sitting there, especially in the summers too, as like a 21, 22-year-old kid. You're seeing social media of your friends on these vacations or on the beach, you know, and you're in Hagerstown, Maryland, in one of the oldest stadiums ever, you know. It's just like, but man, I had some bus rides where the sun would be coming up, and I'd smile, you know. It was so odd, and you can't believe that you're in this situation where you've been on a bus for 10 hours, the sun's coming up, and you got to go play a game that same day. But it's also the most incredible thing ever. Like, who gets to do that?
Right.
You know, like, very, very few people get to do that. And I was fortunate enough to have some great teammates throughout. When I was with the Phillies, we had a core group of 7 to 8 guys that we probably spent 3 minor league seasons together, which isn't very common. And so having a group like that is awesome as well, because you can rely on those guys to vent, honestly, to talk. You know, you can share stories of the grind, you know, and yeah, especially with COVID too. And then you throw in COVID as well.
Right.
And I had just come off of a 2020 spring. It's my first big league spring training. And I was playing so well. And you see it, you know, you start seeing it. You go, man, I'm going to start in AAA. I'm going to keep playing well, and I'm going to get the opportunity. And then COVID happens, and you're like, damn. But you have a choice. You know, I think everyone has a choice you get to decide how you're going to handle it. And I went back to California. Obviously had no idea what was going to happen with the COVID situation, but I kept doing my thing. I kept hitting, I kept training, and I needed to make sure that I was ready whenever the phone rang. And so that's kind of how I went about it. You know, I just love baseball. I love this game, and honestly, the more failure I experience, the more I love it even more.
Yeah.
You know, because you learn so much about yourself through the failure, and you just build that shield of like, I don't know, that tough shield where it's, you know, try and knock me down, try and knock through me, you know. I dare you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get through COVID, obviously, right? And then 2021 starts, spring training again.
Mm.
You break camp, you're back in the minors.
Mm.
But then you get the call, and like, what was that like for you to get that call? And then I've got a follow up for that after you answer this part. So I'm gonna let you answer this part first, but take us through what that it was like for you.
Yeah. Well, so before that, I got to play with Team USA.
Right.
Play on the qualifying team, which was an incredible experience. And I think that was kind of this the kicker that got me the call up, because it was a different scene. It was different baseball. Whereas it's you're representing your country, and it's win at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that just I loved because the egos were gone, money gone. It was, you know, strap your shoes on and let's play ball. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, going into getting the call and like debuting, which we can go into later, but that was like a huge experience that I appreciated, because that got me into the mindset of not thinking about big leagues, contract, etc. It was, what do I have to do to win today?
Yeah.
You know? And so going back to the call, so this is a pretty crazy story. I was I had just gotten back from the qualifying tournament for USA, and I went back to Lehigh Valley, called my buddy Mickey Moniak, and who's one of my best friends, the man. My brother had season tickets for the Brooklyn Nets, and he had 2 tickets and gave them to me and Mick. So we took the train from Jersey to New York, and then we subway to Brooklyn. Middle of the subway, I get a phone call from Josh Bonifay, who was the farm director for the Phillies. And he's got some strange spiel that he hits me with. It was like something along the lines of like releasing me. And I'm like, what's going on? Why are you releasing me? And he goes, because you're going to the big leagues. And then the call cuts out because we're in the subway.
Oh my gosh.
So it cuts out, and I just go, and Mick and I just lock eyes. And we just start jumping up and down. I'm hugging them. I'm crying. And we're in the middle of the subway. So I'm sure these people are looking at us like, we're 2 guys. Why are they hugging and crying? You know? And then
did you call him back? Like, did he call you back, or did you call him back?
I got off the subway and I called him back.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's get back to that topic. Like, you know? And so he, congratulated me and told me, gave me the information of what I got to do, show up to Philly the next day, and called my parents, which was an incredible experience as well. Then we went to the game. We went to the game. And so that was cool. That was a really cool moment that, I definitely won't forget.
Yeah. You kind of glossed over it there about calling your parents, because I wanted to ask you about that, because I know you guys are pretty tight knit, and obviously they've been alongside for the whole ride, but what was that call like? And I mean, I would assume everyone was crying.
Yeah, it was, it was very emotional. I mean, it's still emotional now, because, my parents have sacrificed a lot for me, especially, I mean, both of them, but my dad, like, driving me to tournaments at 5 a.m, leaving, and you reflect on the memories of listening to the Beatles, Breakfast with the Beatles in the car, and get McDonald's for breakfast, those little things. And, it was a lot of reflection, a lot of appreciation, and like you said, a lot of tears, and I'm, it's still emotional thinking about it and reflecting on it. So, I wouldn't be here without my parents.
Yeah.
They sacrificed a lot for me, my whole family. And it was really cool.
You talked about, there's been a lot of ups and downs in your professional career, and obviously one of the ups is making your debut there in Philly, ironically enough against the Braves, who you're playing for now. But dude, I will never ever forget seeing the highlight of your second game. I mean, pinch hit, right, bottom of the 9th, walk-off homer against the Braves. I've seen that replay probably 1,000 times, and I was watching it just the other day before we did this podcast. But I mean, it's almost like the announcers predicted it. I don't know if you've seen it with the announcers coverage, but it's almost like the guy that does the color commentary predicted it.
Yeah, that was.
Were you just floating around the bases? Like, I mean,
I blacked out.
Why? Right. Because I can only imagine, but you had the look of like a little leaguer who just got his first hit. Like that's the beauty of baseball, right? I mean, we're all kids at heart, and you just had an opportunity to live out every kid's dream, and you look like a kid doing it, right? Like that's so awesome.
Right. Yeah. Well, the most incredible thing. I mean, I was on deck and I was trying to control my emotions. I'm Andrew McCutcheon just had an absolutely incredible at bat to walk. I go up on deck. Brad Miller's up. I'm pretty sure I think he popped up to the pitcher or the second baseman, pop up. I'm like, all right, Luke, here we go. And all I was telling myself was hit a ground ball to the second baseman. That's all I was telling myself, because I knew Will Smith had a really good breaking ball, and he was going to go up and in with a fastball if he threw it. So all I was telling myself was just hit a ground ball to second base, keep this inning going.
Yeah.
And threw me the first pitch slider I took, and then threw the exact same one again. I just swung, and right away when I hit it, I knew, but I think my body knew, but my brain didn't know. It was, I hit it, and I remember just the numbing feeling in my body, and then it actually happened. I was like, what? And yeah, that the trot around the bases was the most out of body experience I've ever experienced. Just numbing. I was numb, couldn't feel anything. And then just seeing the boys at home plate, it's incredible. And I have a picture. Somebody blew up this picture that I haven't framed yet, but it's probably, actually, I might have it. I don't know if I have it, but it's like yay big. And it's me just hands up, and all 24 other guys, because there was 25 guys at the time, just the biggest smiles on their face, acting like 12-year-olds, Right. It was, I'm pretty sure Brad Miller said it best. He said, you just made 24 Major League Baseball players look like they're 12. Yeah. It was like, it was incredible. And to have a group like that be so happy for me.
Yeah.
And to share that with those guys was really, really special. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts of that video is like they pan to your family. And I'm guessing that's your little brother or your brother. Look like he's balling. Your mom just looks like she's in shock.
Yeah.
And your dad somehow is keeping it together. Like that's the part I don't get, man, because if I'm in his shoes, like I'm balling, right? Like I'm getting emotional just talking about this, but and you can hear your dad say unbelievable. And I just thought, I thought that was the coolest freaking thing, man. Like what a gift to give your parents, right? I mean, as kind of like a thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was and then even when they came down the field, I definitely felt that, where it was, so glad we could experience this together. You could be here and to do that with them in person was really, really special, emotional, and even the next few days were and something I could never have asked for. My parents are getting interviewed on TV left and right. Like, my mom is so overwhelmed because my mom's just like the cutest little woman who just has the biggest heart. But all these cameras in her face, people asking her questions, she's overwhelmed. My dad's calm, cool, collective. He takes over and does his thing. But
your mom's probably thinking, Luke, what are you doing to me?
Exactly.
This is how you thank me?
I was like, why am I on TV now? I want to go back to Dana Point. I want to go back to the beach, And so, and then my parents and I are walking to dinner one day. We had an off day, and I got people on the streets saying, Luke, so good to, nice homer. They're recognizing me in the streets of Philadelphia. And I'm like, how do you know me? How do you know me? I don't know. And so it was just a crazy few days. And then the next road trip was to LA, which was even crazier.
Yeah. Well, take us through that. Like, you get to come home and play in front of, well, kind of a home crowd, right? I mean, LA is not Dana Point, but
well,
what was that like? Did you just have like a ton of people there?
So the first game was still 50% capacity because of the COVID restrictions. Mm-hmm. And I had at least 100 people there.
Wow.
And you could see, I mean, they stuck out like a sore thumb because people were separated with the COVID situation. So, yeah, there's this huge block of red Phillies, Williams fans, and that was awesome. I came in and pinch hit that game and got a hit. Everyone just went, everyone was cheering, screaming. And they started screaming right when I walked in onto the on deck circle. And all I was telling myself was, "Don't look, Luke. Don't look." I could hear him screaming. And I'm just like, "Don't look, don't look." But then the next day, the stadium was full capacity.
Oh, wow.
50,000 people.
Yeah.
So I went from playing in front of 15 to 20,000 because of the COVID restrictions to 50,000. That was something I'll never forget. That was when it hit me. I mean, I knew I was in the big leagues, but that was an wild experience of being, wow, this is what a big league crowd looks like. You feel the roar, when the ball goes up and everyone's just, whoa, you feel that in your chest.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously being a SoCal kid doing that in SoCal, it probably meant a little bit more for you, right?
Absolutely. And I got Mookie Betts at second base, like chopping shop with me.
Yeah.
Albert Pujols was at first base. It was incredible. It was incredible.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Then, so we talked a little bit about the ups there, right? And you mentioned some of the downs and some of the roller coaster ride, right? And that's kind of it started after that season for you. You go from Philly to the Giants, then from the Giants to the Dodgers,
Miami before that.
Oh, Miami. Sorry. Giants, Miami, Dodgers. What? I mean, a lot is made about, get your 10 years in, right? Get your 10 years, get your time in, your time in. But when you're kind of moving team to team like that, how hard is that for you mentally, right? To be like, okay, I got this, stay on task. You're a big leaguer for a reason, right? I mean, you're probably doing a lot of self-talk, right?
A lot of self-talk. I've learned a lot about myself the last few years. And I would say the first cut was definitely the deepest. Getting DFA'd by the Phillies definitely hurt because I've never experienced that before. And it was the only organization I knew. And so that really hurt. It took me a few days to rebound from that. And then I get traded to the Giants. And a great opportunity. I was super excited. They had just come off a 100-win season. Super excited and made the opening day roster. Then kind of just bounced up and down from the big leagues to AAA. And I got DFA'd, which that one was shocking because I was playing some of the best baseball I'd played in AAA and in big leagues. So that one was shocking. And then, it's just, obviously continues through the DFAs and trades, but there definitely reached the point where it was after Miami where you start kind of having those doubts of am I good enough to be a big leaguer? Can I do this? Do people, you start thinking about other people. It's like, do these people believe in me? What do these people think of me? Why aren't I this, that? You start comparing, it's just like a downward spiral of doubt and fear. And it was something that I really, really struggled with going into the 23 season. It's just a lot of I didn't have very much self-belief, and it was really difficult. It's very difficult going through that experience of bouncing team, bouncing up and down AAA big leagues, because like I know what kind of player I am. I know what I can contribute to a team, playing wise, clubhouse wise. I know that, and that really those experiences really challenge it. And so after the 23 season, I had to make a change. I had to fix, or adjust something, because I was in a spiral that wasn't ending. And so I ended up meeting a gentleman named Jim Brogan, and we started focusing a lot on things that I can control. Things I can control, such as routines, such as preparation. I can't control getting hits. I can't control, I can't control striking out. I can't control certain aspects. I can't control, making errors, not making errors. I put a big focus on things that I can control, and that was a big change for me, because I can control showing up early every day. I can control getting to the cage early. I can control doing early ground balls. I can control all of these things. And then once you get to the game, it's being able to let go and play your game, and letting go of the fear, letting go of the doubts, and just playing, and that was the biggest thing that I've learned this past year, that really helped me, was letting go, was controlling what I control, and just play baseball. Once the game starts, you play.
Did you seek out Jim Brogan? How did you find out about him? Is it one of your buddies tell you about him? I mean, it sounds like maybe changed your life a little bit.
He did. And it was my girlfriend Marlia Manadas. Shout out Marlia. She had a mentor who had worked with him before, and so I made a phone call, reached out, and then I learned who Jim Brogan was very quickly. Yeah. And so, he challenged me from the get-go of pushing myself to the limit. I, like, last off season, I think one day I took 350 swings. Like, I did things that I never thought I could do. I challenged myself outside the box, and once I realized that I could do some of these things, I was like, I can do anything. I felt like Superman. And I think there's something to pushing yourself to the limit. Obviously not hurting yourself, but I think there's a certain point that you just got to kind of push the limit and see how far you can go. Yeah. And then once, keep challenging yourself. I think that's a big part of it, because we don't stop learning. I'm going to continue. You're learning, I'm learning, we're all learning. Right. And so as long as you keep that continual development, I think that's a huge part of life.
Yeah. So how do you apply that when, you're on the big league roster, maybe you're not playing every day, maybe, you're getting a pinch hit here every third, fourth game, maybe you're a defensive replacement for a couple of days in a row. I mean, how do you apply that to those scenarios? Is it just kind of, look, I can't control if Skip's going to play me or not, I'm just going to be prepared? Or is there more to it?
To me, I think it's in your preparation. I think if you're prepared, if you feel like you're the most prepared, then you shouldn't have to worry about those situations. You're just going to be ready when they call your name. And so And so, yeah, I took it to heart to be prepared as I can. So I'd show up first to the field. I would, do early ground balls. I'd be hitting early. I did everything that I could so that when I showed up to the game, I I knew I was prepared, and that's worked for me. I've seen different routines, different people. Some people are wired a little bit differently, but for me, I get anxious. I have anxiety when I'm not prepared, and that's what I've learned. I always thought I was just a nervous person, but it was because I didn't feel prepared enough. And so I just took it to my pregame and prepped, and then I had obviously a routine during the game to, warm my legs up, warm my body up. And then if my name was called, I was ready to rock.
Yeah, no, I mean, that the preparation piece is key,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like you said, if you're prepared, there's probably not much you can't overcome. I
Right.
mean, it's all about preparation. So speaking of preparing, like, how are you preparing for the 2025 MLB season and spring training and all that stuff? I mean, we're probably just a few months away here from spring training. So
Oh yeah.
I know you're in Arizona and putting in your work. And
Mhm.
so what's the off season look like for Luke Williams?
Yeah. So I have a pretty particular schedule that I follow. I'm usually up no later than 6 a.m. I get the body moving in the morning, go on like a light run, and then I do a meditation session, eat breakfast, and then I set up this. I have one of those blow up nets.
Mhm.
I have one of those in my garage with a tee. I have a tee routine that I follow. I have this little wiffle ball machine, Max Pro, or I think Max BP, or the Max BP machine shoots out little wiffle balls. I hit that, and then I go to the gym, do a workout, and then I go to the cage. I got one of my good buddies, Derek Hall. Him and I have been hitting about 4 to 5 times a week, and then I've been starting to do ground balls, and then I separate and live my life.
Yeah.
I just moved to Arizona, so I'm trying to fill in this house that I just got. So I've been to a lot of furniture stores.
You've been playing any golf?
I played a couple rounds of golf.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Arizona, you got some good courses out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I played one. The first one I played was called La Sensa,
Uh,
in Mesa.
uh,
That was a pretty nice golf course. I played with Bailey Falter.
oh wow, yeah,
Yeah, Bailey Falter. That was another CBA guy.
yeah. Another CBA guy, right, right,
Oh yeah,
right, right.
I can't get rid of
Yeah.
him.
Gosh, that team was just so stuck. But Luke, as we kind of circle all this back together, and
Yeah.
you look back on your journey, through high school to getting drafted to where you are today. There's parents and kids listening to this podcast, and what advice would you provide a high school age player, junior, senior, who has ambitions of playing this game for a long time, who is probably very likely uncommitted, similar boat as yours? I mean, what's the message from Luke Williams to those guys?
Yeah. Well, I think I would start off with telling them that everyone's journey is different. I think a lot of kids, and when I was in high school, you compare yourself. You compare yourself to people. You're comparing. You're like, oh, I wish I had this. I wish I went to this school. And I think when you realize that your journey is going to be different than every other person's, I think that's a good starting point to where you're focusing on yourself. It's a team game. You need to be a great teammate. You need to, you're not going to win games without being a team player. But there's a certain point where you kind of got to focus. You got to focus on your inner self. You can't make someone else happy without making yourself happy. So I would say that is it's it's gonna be your own journey, and then just play baseball. I think that a lot of people get caught up in outside noise. They get caught up in the big D1 schools. And NIL, I don't know much. I don't know much about that, so I can't really comment on that. But if you go, you just need an opportunity to play. You don't have to go to the big schools. You go to the big D1 schools to showcase who you are as a player. I know plenty of guys that got drafted out of junior colleges, who went to junior colleges, then went to a D1 and then got drafted. It's your journey. Everyone's journey is different. And if you love baseball enough, and if you commit yourself, then you never know what could happen. You get to decide. It's your choice. It's just, everyone has a choice. They can decide. So that's that was a few things I would say.
Well, it's just like the choices thing, right? We were talking about that a little bit earlier, right? You can choose to decide to get up and go work out, or you can choose not to, right? You can choose to go hit 350 balls in a day, or you could choose not to, right?
Yeah.
But, I saw a great line, like, you can't be angry about the work you didn't put in when you don't get the results that you wanted, right? And something along those lines. And I mean, that really resonates especially when you start talking about baseball and young people.
Yeah. I have a good quote that I actually got from my friend Jim Brogan. He said, it was, do today what others won't, so you can live tomorrow like others can.
I like that.
So that's a good one. I have that in a picture frame in my bathroom, so I see that every morning.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Well, Luke, man, it's been far too long. We didn't even touch on the Spanish Twitter exchanges we had in the past. And
hey, yo hablo mucho español.
Ya sé que no hablas. That's awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for doing this, man, and making some time. I know you're busy out there, and trying to fill that new house of yours and things like that. But man, from deep down, man, I really am grateful for you doing this.
Absolutely, it's an honor to be on your podcast, and hopefully we can chat a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to get you out to Palm Desert in December. Make sure Peter sets that up.
Maybe we can get you guys out to Arizona. How about that?
Ooh, now you're talking. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Luke. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, my pleasure.